Hey, what's up, my people? John Middlekauff, new YouTube channel. What I need you to do, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, share with your friends. Appreciate everyone that has. It's the podcast, 3 and Out. You can listen wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify. We got you covered. Also, thevolume.com. We got merch right here. FlexFit hat. Go to thevolume.com. Get yourself a 3 and Out hat. So let's look at the wide receiver scouting report for the top 3 guys. Obviously, there are other wide receivers, and we will dive into them once they're getting drafted. But we play the hits here. Like, we're not outthinking the room. Marvin Harrison, Malik Nabers, and Rome Odunze. For me, and I say this all the time when it comes to the draft, if you're drafting really high, there is no guarantee. There just isn't. There is no such thing as a high floor. We see guys fail all the time. Great athletes, average athletes that try hard. We've seen every type of player not live up to the billing and be quote-unquote a bust or underwhelming that is drafted in the top 10. So to me, I never have a problem with someone stepping in the batter's box and swinging for a home run. That's why for me, Malik Nabers is the best wide receiver prospect in this draft. He has the best opportunity, if everything goes right, to be a superstar. Now, there are some questions. I know a lot of teams, I don't know all the details. There are off-the-field questions, I'll put it at that. Nothing crazy, but stuff that concerns teams. The type stuff that media is like, oh, this is not fair. Bullshit. When I'm drafting a guy high and I have any question marks about the person, it's okay to be leery. It's okay to be like, yeah, I don't feel great, right? You don't always know about this stuff, but they exist. So assuming that he's going to be okay, be a good worker, be a good guy, not get in any trouble, to me, he's the best prospect. You get a guy that's 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, and runs as fast as he does. But we've seen that player before. Guys that run 4.3s and then they can't play in the NFL. This guy has elite ball skills. This guy's ability to track the ball in the air. Just watch some of his YouTube highlights. One skill that is very underrated in the NFL as a wide receiver is shooting your hands up last second. Why? Because when you are going up against a good defensive back, the moment you start putting your hands up, he reacts. They're very instinctive that way. But if you don't break stride till the last possible second, it's what Randy Moss did at the highest level we've ever seen, and you're that fast, the DB is at a huge, huge disadvantage. And he does this at a pretty elite level. Now, there are some physical question marks with him. Play strength. I think sometimes at the line of scrimmage, and he's going to get more press corners as he gets to the NFL, bigger, stronger guys. Can he get off the line? Can he separate, using his power, which some people would say he doesn't have that much of. But in terms of high-end speed, route running ability, and ability to move the needle down the field, I don't want to say he's an A+, but it's really, really high-end. And there are some question marks, but I'm just talking strictly as a prospect. He easily has the highest ceiling of this bunch. So to me, he's the number one guy. And obviously, a guy that's been near the top of any draft board since he played that Rose Bowl as a true freshman. Remember, Marvin Harrison did not start. They had Olave, they had Garrett Wilson, they had Jackson Smith. He was the 4th or 5th wide receiver on the team. Now, granted, he was 18 years old. And until those guys opted out in the Rose Bowl, and he played, I'm pretty sure he had 3 touchdowns in that game. In the next 2 years, he dominated. Now, as I've said, we don't have any testing numbers. We know he's 6'3", 210 pounds. The lineage he comes from, his dad's one of the great wide receivers the last 25 years. He is a fantastic prospect. He does everything well. He's big. He can run every route, catch the ball in traffic. I'd say the one thing is he's super dynamic with the ball in his hands. He's not exactly like Debo or Jamar Chase, but in terms of getting open, which is the most important thing, I think it's borderline impossible. And listen, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit for this guy not to be good, because these type players translate well in the NFL. Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen. I'm not saying they're all similar players. The ability to get open whenever you have to, that matters. So to me, Marvin Harrison is the safest of these guys. We've seen him at a super high level for a long period of time, and he does everything well. Usually those guys play well in the NFL. Now, all these guys, because of their position, they're very, very dependent on two people, the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. So whoever's scheming your offense and throwing you the ball. We saw Larry Fitzgerald for a lot of years with shitty coaches and shitty quarterbacks. He's at a disadvantage. We saw Randy Moss go to Oakland, disaster. Traded to New England, greatest wide receiver of all time. So where you go matters. In some of these teams that we're mocking him to, could the Cardinals get one of these guys? Kyler Murray. I think the guy would be good. Could the Chargers take one of these guys? Justin Herbert. They would be really good. Even if the Bears are able to get one of these guys, Caleb Williams, assuming he's just solid, they should be good, especially because he's got two other wide receivers to play with. You tell me the Giants take Nabers or Harrison, I could see him having an underwhelming year. Not because they're not talented, because who's fucking throwing you the football? To me, the most intriguing of this group, though, and I would have him third after watching the three of them, would be Rome Odunze. But I don't think there's a big gap. I don't think there's a big gap at all. Like Harrison, he's big. 6'3", 212 pounds. I remember when I was at the Combine, one of my buddies who's a wide receiver coach on a team, who definitely would be in the mix if they could to take one of these guys, had just interviewed him that day in their interview room. And he fucking loved him. He's like, he walks in the room. You underestimate his size, right? It's because you watch him on film or you just watch his YouTube highlights. He's big, but he doesn't look massive. He's like, I felt like he was really, really big. And he dominated this year. He had 81 catches, 1,500 yards, and 13 touchdowns. I mean, punked people constantly. There's a clip of him returning a punt to the house against Cal. So I think a lot of people would say, well, he's not quite the athlete of these other two guys. He ran a 4.4, 4.45, and he has punt returned in his past. His ability in contested areas is elite. I mean, awesome. Mossing guys, back shoulder throws, but he played with, an NFL quarterback. So you put him, like I said, if the Giants were to draft him, it could be a struggle. Now, one thing with him, a lot like Harrison, is red zone. When you're 6'3", you have an advantage in the red zone because you're going to go up against some corners. Even if you're a big corner, I got you by a couple inches. And there are going to be some corners that are 5'11". So if I'm a big-time athlete, and this is what Nabers has while he's shorter, he jumps 42 inches. So all these guys can get high in the air. You don't have to make a perfect pass. You just put it into their vicinity. That's why tight ends are so valued, because their catch radius is so big because of their size. So I think Rome is a big-time prospect. I do think when the dust settles, he'll end up being the third wide receiver. And there's a pretty good chance, I'm wrong, Marvin goes first. But all these guys, if they go to the right spot, should be high-end wide receivers. Should be guys, no doubt about it, get second contracts from their team. And their production at the highest level. Sometimes it scares me with a wide receiver when they're coming from, I would say, middling programs or questionable competition. We have seen all these guys under the brightest lights. LSU, think about who they play in that division. Obviously, Marvin at Ohio State. In Rome, these last 2 years, Washington's lost 2 games. They played everybody. And, I mean, 2 of the better teams, obviously Michigan was the best team. He played Oregon twice this year, and he destroyed them. I mean, destroyed them. And they always have good defensive backs. So I think these 3 guys, this is a pretty special class because you're getting blue chip guys from blue chip programs that dominated for years. There aren't really questions. It's not like none of these guys are one-year wonders. Now, Malik by far had his best year this year. He had 89 catches, 1,600 yards, and 14 touchdowns. But his quarterback was a lot better. Let's face it, one of the questions with Jaden Daniels is you watch him in 2022, he wasn't going to be a top 100 pick. And then he starts playing like a top 5 player, you're going to be better. Rome has been much better over a 2-year span, and same thing with Malik Nabers. I mean, 2 years ago, Marvin Harrison's playing with C.J. Stroud, who's arguably a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Rome's had Michael Penix for 2 years. So these three guys, cream of the crop. Very, very fascinated to watch, kind of how it breaks for them. And if you were in these guys' shoes, like if you're one of their agents or kind of on their quote unquote team, where you go matters so much in the NFL. Who your offensive coordinator is, who your quarterback. And luckily, because of the way this draft is, some teams that need wide receivers high that already have quarterbacks. We can nitpick Kyler Murray. He's way better than over half the league. Justin Herbert, we can argue whether he's a top 5 quarterback. He's a lock top 8 quarterback. And with Harbaugh, I think we all agree he's going to be better. So you want to go to one of those spots badly. Or the Bears to decide to not go D-line or I don't know what, tight end or whatever, and take you. You want to go to Chicago, which is crazy to say. You never would have said that for years.